So today, the message we've had so far has been peace in action, love in action, joy in action, and today is hope in action. And so I want to kind of start with my week. I had a really, really tough week. Probably one of the hardest in the last 10 years. So we're going to start there, we're going to build. In ministerial school, they usually told us, okay, don't share what you're working on. Share how you've transformed that after you're done. So, I think about this and I think, it's not really real, is it? Because it basically says, oh, the minister doesn't have anything they're working on. So I really want to show you kind of where I'm at and use that as a bridge to take us higher to where we can go. Because that's an unhealthy expectation, right? So this week, I had an exchange with an individual in my family, and I'm just going to keep the person anonymous. And it was really heavy, and it affected me very, very deeply. And it was a strong disagreement, and basically what it was about is an aspect of our country today, which I think is very universal. It's not really political at all. And so basically it's the wages versus prices, and I've been talking about this a little bit, that affects so many people today. And so I kind of launched into a description of my point of view using logic. And mistake number one. If you don't believe there's life in the universe and the UFO would appear right here, you would not even be able to see it. Logic does not always work. So I used logic, and here's what I did. And I said, here's my actual bill, health insurance from 2002, your same company, 2019. Here's the increase, the amount, the number, over 100% increase. Here's the bill from car insurance. Same car, no by the way, no health changes, no meds, excellent health then, excellent health now. You follow me? Same with car insurance, no violations, no accidents, car insurance then, car insurance now, same car. My mom told me it would go down over time as the car got older, it went up over 150%. Now granted, it's a little higher in Washington than Kansas City, but the proportion is not that much. So then I said, you guys think, oh, he's so young. Well, I do have friends younger than me with kids in college, just FYI. So I called one of my friends, that his daughter's in the same college as I attended, and he and I were college roommates. I said, how much are you paying? I looked online at the stats, what is the average at this school, because it might not just be hers. So I did all, my intricate intellectual research, and then I, asked my mom what it was, and there was over 100% increase in 18 years. And then I took my job, and this is not a, high-level, high-paying school. It's just kind of, University of Kansas, kind of. Then I took my job at that time, and I looked at the wage, looked at it now, calculated the increase. It was about 8% increase. And then I said, equals kind of a stressful situation for many people, probably millions of people in the country. And this didn't make sense, to this individual. I said, no, those numbers in your own personal life, your own personal experience, not going to look at that. Tried different approaches. Didn't work. And over time, this isn't me. This isn't about me. It's not about this individual. It's a representation, to me, of millions of people. And my situation is representative of millions of people. And this person's beliefs are representative of millions of people. And that's what really hit me. I can take it. I can take the heat and keep going. And honestly, I'm going to be fine. I have these unity principles I'm practicing. I know personally I'm going to be fine, but my heart is so much bigger than that. What about the people that don't know about unity principles? What about the people that struggle with all of these things? And should you have to be at such a high spiritual level just to be able to have those basic necessities? We know that when times are difficult, Great Depression for instance, there were still people making millions. You can rise in abundance in any period of time. You don't have to wait for the entire system to change to experience the abundance of the universe. We know in unity that God is pure abundance and created everything around us with the most ease and effortless mastery possible, including ourselves. Therefore, we are fully abundant beings. That's the absolute truth. But there's also a relative truth. And that truth is that sometimes people are struggling. And I think to ignore that and to operate in a way, even when individuals in your own life express specifically with numbers where they're at, and you ignore that, that's not compassionate, that's not loving, that's not hope in action to me. And so I was just slayed by that. I was very angry for a number of days, and still am. And I'm still processing it in the same ways that I teach you, to breathe in, to feel that anger, to understand that anger, to bring it to God. And I'll follow up in the rest of the sermon. But I just felt like, wow, it's so insulting. It's like going to an African American person and saying, you're not black, and now let's sit down and have a conversation about why you're not black. Or going to someone that's been through the Holocaust and saying, you made all that up. And you think that's not the case, but I've met people that have survived Auschwitz and have people come up to them and say, you made that up. And they pulled out their arm and said, well, what about this tattoo right here? And they said, well, you did that to yourself. I've spoken with people that have had this experience. It's incredibly arrogant, it's incredibly insulting, and it's incredibly destructive, to that person, to their family, to all those that went through that experience. So this energy sort of that this individual was projecting was, it's all the same as it used to be in 1947 or 57 or 67 or 87 or 97. Nothing is very different. We still experience the same sorts of challenges with college and housing, etc., but it's at the same level of intensity that it used to be in 1987. This is where I had a problem. So my perspective on this is that hope dawns where awareness begins. I think really people today are afraid to look at that darkness. The darkness in the world, the darkness within themselves. They know it's there. They can feel it's there. But in this instance, and I sent a voice message to this person describing perhaps how they came to their awareness, to the ability to deny that was right in front of me. How, this country has meant so much to them, has provided such opportunity, that they've applied themselves, worked incredibly hard to reach the level that they're at. And how can anyone say otherwise? The hardships that they've been through, the ways that they've applied themselves, and the ways that has made them a better person by doing so. And they sent back to me, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. You kind of hear my perspective. And I said, yeah, that's how it normally is. But people don't hear where I'm coming from. So, Hope begins where awareness dawns. I think people are afraid to look at that darkness. Because something that's meant so much, how can you look at it and say, oh, there might be some woundedness here. We just pretend that if we don't look at it, somehow it'll go away. And if we do look at it, there's a fear there that it will dash those old perceptions. That it's this land of infinite opportunity and potential. At an absolute level, that is always true. So I feel like in the hearts of so many people, it's just too much to bear. We can't look at the situation, it would just crush. But that doesn't change the fact of the numbers I just gave you in my own personal life. So there's a story I love to tell about a wonderful yogi, super powerful, amazing being when he was very young. I've shared it before, and he grew up in a wealthy family, and they had all these rooms, and one of them, they said, don't go in that closet because there's a ghost. And he ran right there and he threw open the door and he looked and he was so disappointed because he couldn't see the ghost. And it was a really powerful story because if you think about it, everybody in the household was super scared. They didn't want to look at that darkness. He ran right there and he said, oh, it's not so powerful. There's nothing even there. Everybody around him told him, don't go there. Don't look at it. His lesson was, look fear right in the face, and it will cease to trouble you. Now, if we're willing to step back and actually look fear in the face, look at the economic system, look at the political system, look at how we're feeling emotionally, look at our spiritual truths right in the face, clearly, with unbiased mind, with open heart. We think oftentimes in unity, we're scared to do this. We don't want to look at the darkness. We don't want to look what's right in front of us Because in a sense we say, if I do that, I'm going to endorse it. Or I'm going to give it power. And what I just shared with you, if you throw open that closet door and look in it, you take the power right away from it, right? You take the power away. This is what I think we're not willing to do. Now, if you think about it, you go back through my life, and I'm 40, and I look at the news and I say, what has been the predominant vibration of that news over 40 years? It's been pretty negative. Every year, just kind of this rolling out negative stuff, negative news. One of my friends had a joke about the news, I think it was the late 80s. His father worked for Sprint. He was talking about the kind of the negative news energy that he would watch back then. And there's sort of almost this belief, in a sense, subconsciously, that this energy is powerful. You know, because otherwise we wouldn't keep it going and keep feeding ourselves with it. You know, there's a pop culture term that I can't really say from the pulpit. You're born. That we kind of get into this energy, and we get kind of addicted to it. And in a sense, part of us says, you know, that's more powerful. It may even be a subconscious energy, but that's more powerful than the light. That's why we keep it rolling for 40 years, my entire life. Now you think of the light, and I've used this analogy before. So you go to Safeco Field when the Mariners play, and you stand on the pitcher's mound and you light your candle. And you turn off all the lights in the stadium. I would guess, no matter where you sit in that stadium, you can see that one little candle glowing. That's powerful. Now conversely, you turn on all the lights in that stadium, fill it with people, and you have a little box in your hand, and you're holding it there on the pitcher's mound. My guess is probably the only person that can see that little darkness, that little shadow in the box, is the one that's holding the box. And that's symbolic. We have a speed of light that we can measure. Can you measure the speed of darkness? We have light bulbs in our house. Do we have dark bulbs? We've got a black light, but it's still giving off light, right? You can go out to sea, you know, on the Oregon coast or the Washington coast, you can see all these lighthouses. They broadcast light for miles. Can you see a dark house? No. From miles away in the ocean. Now think about what I'm telling you. This is really powerful. There's deep meaning here. We've got this negativity rolling for my entire life, feeling almost subconsciously like it's really powerful. But what I just showed you, even scientifically, is it's not that powerful. That is incredibly, incredibly helpful. I think I'll start with a simple, kind of small example, then I'll give you a big one. So, my son Simon is one place I look for hope. He had 3 bowel movements in 1 hour this week. This is going to be recorded for all posterity or something. And on the 3rd bowel movement, you know, by this time he was just squirming and playing everywhere, and we have this nice little changing table. It's very easy to clean. And so he's up there, and I've got about 15 wipes, you know, and I'm kind of wiping around him as he's moving all over the place, and I'm getting it all cleaned up. And about midway through, he decides to go number 1. I think it's number 1. He goes pee, whatever, number it is. He goes pee, and then he's just kind of playing. He's got it on his feet, he's got it on his hands, he's got it on his back, it's everywhere. And he just looks up at me and just... And you could, in your intellectual, you could say, well, he's a kid, he doesn't know what's happening. He knows what's happening. He knows what's happening. He calls to me quickly every time he poops his pants. He knows there's poop there. Now, this is the parable of the poopy Simon.